And gentlemen, and welcome to this first meeting of the District Planning Committee, I think for about 16 months in person. During that time, or in fact last Wednesday, the previous chairman, Councillor Salisbury, was appointed to the Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning, and therefore is ineligible to serve on this committee. Therefore, today we look to appoint a new chairman, and I'd ask the committee to propose a new chairman, please. Councillor Forbes.
And I propose Councillor Sweatman.
Do I have a seconder for Councillor Sweatman?
I'd like to second that.
Do I have any other nominations for chairman? Seeing no other nominations, Councillor Sweatman, you are the new chairman of the District Planning Committee, and I pass the meeting to you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The first item of business I have to conduct is to elect the vice chairman of this planning committee, and I propose Councillor Peacock. No seconder, please.
Second.
Any other nominations? Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. What we'll do now is I will ask the Vice Chair to read out the fire safety brief, please.
Thank you, Chair. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, firstly, leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. Secondly, follow the green sign to the assembly point, the large staff car park opposite the entrance to the building. Third, anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by the officers present after the other people have left. Four, do not return to the building until it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. The whole of the council's site is a no smoking area. Filming from the public gallery is permitted, but members must please refrain from filming within the council chamber so as not to distract the meeting. Mobile phones must be switched to silent.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We're a little bit out of kilter with the agenda, but firstly I would like to welcome members and members of the public. I think it's been a long 18 months and it's really good to be back to face-to-face meetings. By way of introductions, to my right I have Mr. Nick Rogers, who is the business unit leader. To his right is Mr. Stephen King, the planning application team leader and the case officer for this application. To my left, as you've heard, is Councillor Peacock, Vice Chairman. To his left is Mr. Tom Clark, Head of Regulatory Services. And over in the corner is Serge, very kindly taking minutes for us today. Next item on the agenda is I have apologies have been received from Councillor Hatton and Councillor Band. Next item on the agenda is to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Do I have any? Councillor Baines.
I'm also a member of Hayward Council. Although I do not serve on the planning committee, I note they have made a significant contribution to this particular application. Just for interest's sake, I did see a promotion about this particular application many months ago. I believe other people probably did as well.
Be a personal interest only, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I see no other indications. Next item is to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting of the District Planning Committee held on the 15th of April 2021 and the meeting of the annual District Planning Committee held on the 28th of April 2021. Can I ask members to raise their hand to indicate agreement, please?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, sorry. I did allude at the beginning, before we started, that I had written to Councillor Salisbury and copied it to the committee because I wasn't too sure what the structure of the committee would be for today's meeting. But I did raise an issue on page 5 and 6 of the minutes. It's only a very small point really about the travel planning. But I felt that we had the way you read the minutes, it's a contradiction to encourage the use of cycling, but not to make a link to the new NCN cycle route that runs along the A23, very close to the site. And therefore, I feel that the condition should implement a cycle path access from the site, the south side of the site, on the A272, and entry onto the NCN cycle route, which is a national cycling route between, in this area, London and Brighton. So that's what I really wanted to highlight. I mean, we talk about a travel plan being forward, but there's no details, and when it's going to be brought back, I don't know.
What we're doing today, Chairman, is approving the minutes, and my recollection is that that was one of the weaknesses of this application. So the minutes are reflecting what the position was. Councillor Bates is outlining what we might like the position to be, but that's what we were told at the meeting. So I don't think the minutes do need amending, Chairman.
So,
I don't think the minutes do need amending.
okay. Can you agree on that? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Councillor Bates. Next item on the agenda is to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. We'll go on to the application, which is recommended for approval, which is DM/20/4159, Downlands Park Care Home, Bolner Farm, Lane, Hayward's Heath. There has been an update sheet issued, so I'll trust members have had time to read those. And I will now pass over to Mr. King, who will introduce the application. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Just before we go through the presentation, I'll very quickly run through the update sheet for members. In terms of representations, you'll see we've received 2 further letters about the application. Additional comments that have been made and summarised on the sheet. There's an update to the report in terms of the applicant confirming their content with pre-commencement planning conditions that have been proposed. That's a requirement of legislation now. The applicants have also confirmed that their content to enter into the legal agreement as set out to control who will be able to live on the site, and as you'll see, it'll be a very similar legal agreement to the one that has been signed at Hazelden's nursery site in Ormond, that's referred to in the committee report. And page 45 of the committee report, there's a slight correction to that paragraph, so it's substituting what's in the committee report with the paragraph there, just clarifying the cycle and mobility scooter storage. Finally, 2 additional conditions regarding noise, light machinery, and just times for refuse collection. So just go through the presentation. So the application seeking full planning permission for the demolition of the existing care home and the replacement on site of a Part 2, Part 3-storey building containing 66 extra care apartments, a community pub, guest suite and staff facilities, together with extra care cottages. So this is the application site here, outlined in red. It's on the east side of Thornhill Farm Lane. This is the existing building here and care home. As members will have seen from the site visit beginning of the week, it's quite a substantial fall in levels through the site from north where the cursor is down to the south. The site's within the built-up area of AOT is defined in district plan. As you can see, the existing care home is located at the northern end of the site. The existing access right here, where the cursor is, that serves the care home, also serves the nearest property, Darwin's Cottage, which is immediately to the north. To the northeast of the site, set out on page 22 of the committee report, is a place which is also a retirement extra care facility. So we've got Goldbridge Care Home located here, where the cursor is, and then LA dwellings here at Climework Close, immediately to the north. To the south of the site, it's all laid to grass. The site's well enclosed on these boundaries here. Down to the southwest, set out in the committee report, southeast, sorry, set out in the committee report, there's a residential development underway of 18 dwellings. On the eastern side of the site here, area of land is laid to grass, and that's in the council's ownership. This is just an aerial view to give members a bit more context of the site. So this is the existing care home. It's the retirement complex to the north-east. Beechhurst Gardens there. That's the area where the new housing has been developed. That's Bolnall Farm Lane. It's now a D road has been truncated. And then Bolnall Farm Lane loops round and becomes a single track public right of way around here that goes back into AMC, the main road, Butlers Green Road to the north here. So this is the existing site layout. So you've got the care home at the northern end of the site, predominantly 2.5-storey, 3-storey building with some single-storey additions on the eastern side. Existing car parking located on the western side, and car parking outstanding on the northern side as well. You can see from the map the very close proximity of the existing building to Darwin's Cottage here. There's also an existing pedestrian access gate to the public right of way here that's intended to be retained as part of the application. And these are just the existing elevations of the site. I've got some photographs later. So then part 2.5, 3-storey building with the single-storey additions here. So the proposal is to demolish all the buildings on the site and replace it with the extra care apartments and the extra care cottages outlined in the report. So the main apartment building, you see, a U-shaped configuration, residential wings on the western side, eastern side, to be linked by single-storey when viewed from this side, and 2-storey when viewed from the southern end. This is the community hub section of the building. Utilise the existing access into the site. We have car parking located to the side on the northern boundary here. There's car parking around the cottages. There's also some undercroft car parking located at this end of the building here. In terms of the proposed ground floor, I've just put this slide up to compare it with the existing layout. So you can see the proximity of the existing building to Darwin's Cottage. I think at the closest point they're about 7 metres apart. And you can see once the building is demolished, proposed replacement is much further away. It's set out in the committee report. From Darwin's Cottage. That just gives an idea of the comparison of the proposed compared to the existing layout. As mentioned in the report, the application also proposes 2 metre wide footway on the western side of Bolton Farm Lane, from just outside the entrance to the site up to Butler's Green Road, and then tactile paving to allow you to cross at these points here and these points here. This is the proposed lower ground floor layout. So, as I mentioned earlier, because the application is taking advantage of the fallen levels of the site. So, when you're at the southern end of the site, looking back up at the proposed building, the hub section will be 2 stories. But when you're on the other side, coming in, it will be single story. So, it's taking advantage of that falling levels from north to south. Just a couple of floor plans. That's a proposed first floor plan of the apartments. So this is the northern end. So it's only this apartment that's got a main window that faces across towards Darwin's Cottage, the small balcony area. The other windows are secondary here. Secondary windows on the apartments on this side, the eastern side. Proposed second floor plan, again it's secondary windows on the north-facing side of the apartments, and these are terrace areas here at the second floor level. Proposed north and east elevations. Got some 3D images that are a bit clearer, that will make it clearer, but you can see how the proposal takes advantage of the fallen levels through the site. So the top one is the north elevations. That's what you can see if you stood at the entrance, the community hub into the building, the 2 wings either side, and that's the east elevation. Proposed south and west elevations. So if you're within the site looking back up, you can see because of the change in levels, it's 2 story, the hub section, and then you've got the 2 wings either side, and that's the west elevation. The proposed cottages, they're 2 story buildings, flat roof, supposed to be red brick. Typical floor layouts of those buildings. This plan just shows the proposed boundary treatments. So the existing wall on the northern boundary of the site will be demolished and moved back. So this would be a 2 metre brick wall that's shown in red where the cursor is. That would be timber fencing at that point there. The remainder of the site, the existing boundary treatment will all be retained and enhanced. You saw from the site visit that the site is very well enclosed at the moment. That's the proposed pavilion that's located towards the southern end of the site. That's a timber building that would be used for activities. The applicants refer to art classes, yoga, that sort of thing in the pavilion building. Proposed drainage plan, I'll come on to drainage later, but essentially the application site is proposed to be drained by various deep wall soakways within the site, and the proposed foul would pick up go down from the site to the southeast to pick up the existing foul connection down to Farm Lane. So that's the proposed drainage plan. So just some 3D images to probably give a better flavour of what is proposed. So this is looking at the apartment and the hub building from the southern side, so looking from south to north. So you can see a 2-story building when viewed from this side. a green roof to the community hub. Photovoltaic panels on the roof of the apartment building. You can see in the background the existing retirement buildings and climate close here. These are views from the entrance into the hub. So if you're at the northern entrance, what you'd see walking into the site, and that's from the vehicular entrance, again looking towards the hub and the two wings of the apartment. So you can see the two-storey at this end, and then they step up. Just a closer up elevation of the apartments from the southern end, so you can see the apartments stepping down the side. That's just a closer up view of the typical elevation of the apartment building. So contemporary style, but using traditional materials of brick. These are some images of the cottages. So again, panels, PVC panels on the roof of the cottages, and car parking in between various buildings there. Again, contemporary appearance, but using traditional materials for the cottage. Just some photos of the existing care home. So that's the building as it exists at the moment. The image on the left shows where these photographs are taken from. So that's looking down Bonwell Lane. These are looking within the site to the existing building. These photographs are taken within the grounds of the site. Again, the slide on the left shows where they're taken from and what they're looking at. But fairly self-explanatory. They're just views of Climate Close and the Goldbridge care home to the northeast of the site. So these are the Climate Close properties. That's the Goldbridge care home. Just some views taken in the last month or so, again, of the existing Bonwell Farm Lane and looking into the site. This is from the open space, again, looking right across into the access to the site. So I'll go back to the site plan. And just briefly run through, very briefly, the issues as they're set out in the committee report. So the main issues are listed on page 27. As members will know, planning law says that planning applications have to be determined in accordance with the development plan unless material considerations indicate otherwise. The development plan for this part of the district is the district plan and the Haywardsley neighbourhood plan. And when we're looking at whether something is in compliance with the development plan, it's the development plan when read as a whole, not having to be in compliance with each and every policy. So the principle that's dealt with in the committee report, you'll see sites within the built-up area, so officers view the principle of development accords with policy DP6 in the district plan. You'll see that the sites allocated in the Haywardsley neighbourhood plan under policy H7, which refers to development of approximately 20 extra care bungalows. So in that respect, the application isn't in full compliance with all of policy H7, as that policy envisaged the existing care home being retained. But clearly, the Haywardsley neighbourhood plan was made and developed well in advance of this application coming forward, so it couldn't be envisaged that this application would come forward. The loss of the existing building and its status as a non-designated heritage asset, that's dealt with on page 29 of the committee report. You'll see that the building isn't listed and it's not worthy of listing. And it's your officer's view that, planning officer's view that the application, when you look at the balance that you have to carry out, the clear advantage lies in a redevelopment of the site, because you're making efficient, best use of the site. You're getting a well-designed building. There's consequent employment benefits, etc. And there's no reason to dispute the applicant's evidence that the existing building can't be viably converted. And I think, again, we saw at the site was the condition of the existing building, and it really doesn't lend itself to modern accommodation. Landscape impacts are dealt with on page 35 of the committee report, and we don't think there's any adverse impacts from the proposal. It's well enclosed and the site is within the built-up area. Design, that's dealt with on page 36 of the report. So we've seen it's a modern design using traditional materials. It's been designed to take advantage of the fallen levels through the site. You see that the scheme has been reported to the design review panel, who supported the principle of the development and suggested some design amendments. Those amendments have been made in line with the design review panel's comments, and the council's urban design now fully supports the scheme. His comments are summarised in the report and set out in full in the appendix. Important issue, neighbour amenity, that's dealt with on page 41 of the committee report. And as members will know, that the test is whether there's any significant harm caused to neighbouring amenities. You'll see that the proposed apartment building is moved further away from this northern boundary compared to the existing building. The closest point to the properties on Plymouth Close, the corner of the buildings here, is 41 metres. At the moment, it's 36 metres away. It's further away from the existing, or further away than the existing building, so we don't consider there's any significant harm caused to the amenities of these occupiers here. And with the 2 metre brick wall along that boundary and some landscaping as well, there should be no adverse impact arising from car parking or the comings and goings along the access road to these properties here. And in relation to Darwin's Cottage, again, we saw that the application proposes moving the building further away than the existing cottage. I think currently it's 7 metres away, whereas with the proposal it will be 27 metres away at the closest point. So again, no significant impact in the officer's view on the amenities of this property. Transport's dealt with on page 42 of the committee report. As I say, it will use the existing access. There'll be 80 car parking spaces, 64 of those on the surface. The remaining 16 in the Undercroft area here, and that's divided up 15 visitor spaces, 5 for staff and 60 for residents. You'll see in the report the applicants are proposing a car club and an on-site minibus service, and it's your officer's view that the car parking is sufficient. You see there's no objection from the Highway Authority to the car parking and access arrangements. The proposed footway will allow good pedestrian access into the centre of Hayward Heath, which is about 1.4 kilometres to the centre of South Road and the Orchard Shopping Centre. Affordable housing, that's dealt with on page 47. For the reasons that are set out in the committee report, the officers the view that this proposal is for C2 housing rather than C3, and therefore there isn't a requirement for affordable housing because that only arises from C3 dwellings. The reasons for that are set out in the committee report, but it's a similar situation to what we had at the Hazelden's nursery site in Auburn, but that's referred to in the report, so I won't go into that too much now. I've showed the drainage plan already, so I won't go through that in any great detail. So I think in summary, it's your officer's view that the proposal does comply with the development plan when read as a whole, and that the benefits of the scheme clearly outweigh the loss of the existing care home, which can be classed as a non-designated heritage asset. There's no technical objections to the application from the Highway Authority or drainage, ecological grounds. The proposal will make efficient use of the site, provide a good quality development. So on that basis, subject to a legal agreement being completed to control who can occupy the development, the scheme is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. King, for a very detailed report there. Before I open this up to debate for members, we have two public speakers. Firstly, the public speakers will go to that chair over there. Mr. Stanley will guide you in over there. We've got a timing system, and public speakers are actually timed for 3 minutes. On this machine, it's only 2 minutes, so Mr. Clark will time the first minute on his watch. When the green light comes on, you will have approximately 2 minutes to speak. When the amber light comes on, you will have approximately 30 seconds left. When the red light comes on, I will ask you to round up to your nearest sentence. So the first speaker we got is Councillor Mike Halfer of Haywsheath, Franklin's Ward. And as a town councillor, he's only allowed 3 minutes, I'm afraid. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think with regard to my jacket, I do have the models who are used to going out, so I apologise for that, and I haven't got my tracking bottom. So,
that's quite all right, Councillor. It takes us a bit of getting used to come back into reality again.
The matters in hand. Gave a very good overview of a number of points I was going to bring up, to which the developers have access to a number of them, including walls, wheel washing, management plans put in very early, and also protecting the bridleway and the little green area which is outside. All parking for all tradesmen will be on site, and they're willing to be held to account for that if anybody sees transgressions. The other thing perhaps just to bear in mind that everything that can be recycled will be recycled, so the building will then be demolished, the bricks and that where possible will be saved and will be reused. We believe that this contributes additional facilities for the local community use, and this home is a specialist new model concept for retirement home because they're going to interact with the residents and with the local students and school children to bring the young and the old together. And it's going to be a much more integrated retirement home to integrate with the broader community. They're also looking to make it a close-knit community with the other homes which are there. And also on the environmental side, Mr. Chairman, the building will be designed to take a fabric-first approach to environmental designs with good levels of airtightness and highly insulated facades, achieving unit values in excess of current regulations. When combined with renewable technologies, as has been demonstrated by Playing Officer, the target is to achieve a 20% improvement on regulations for CO2 emissions, with as much recycling on on-site materials. As you can see, the solar panels, etc., are all, and also heat pump technology is going to be installed. I believe that this is an excellent use of a very restricted ground fields of site, and I would recommend it for approval. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Fulford. There will be a brief pause while the Speaker's chair is sanitised. Thank you. Thank you very much. I call on the next speaker, Mr. John Montgomery. Would you like to take a seat there, please? Sorry? Before you start, Mr. Montgomery, would you like to introduce yourself and who you're from, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, my name is John Montgomery with Untitled Planning Consultants. We're the planning consultants representing even retirement living.
Okay, thank you very much. If you'd like to start. Thank you.
The extra care scheme before you say replaces, as you've heard, the existing care home on the site. Will not only comprise high quality accommodation, but also extensive communal and recreational facilities in terms of restaurants, swimming pools, gyms, etc. And these will be available to the wider community in the Cable scheme. You've just heard these benefits from Councillor Jackson. The application proposes involving close consultation with your officers, design review panel, taking forward their recommendations, and of course the town council. We've also engaged very actively with the local residents. Now, notwithstanding this, I appreciate people don't always like change. Here, it is inevitable. The existing building is not fit for purpose, does not lend itself to the sort of conversion that will provide the quality of care expected by elderly residents in the 21st century. I just tell you briefly to the concerns of some of the local residents. I know that Stephen King's been through those in some detail so I won't roll on them too much. Firstly, in terms of overlooking visual impact, this building needs to be considered in the context of the existing care home. As you already heard, the building proposed by us is further away from the care home, although it is slightly higher, increased distance is the main consideration. And unlike the existing care home, it doesn't have principal windows facing towards the close. So I know members went on the site visit who can assess that pretty carefully. In addition, it's also universally accepted now the minimum distance between buildings is 21 metres. Here, we're over double that, around about 40 metres. I obviously refer to your report there, Stephen King made the point that the building wouldn't appear overly prominent and would not cause significant loss of amenity to local residents. Secondly, there is concern about parking. Again, this has to be considered in context. We're talking about development where the average age of residents will be in their late 70s. In terms of the numbers, this applies with your car parking guidelines, even though it's a fact that there will be an over-provision. Based on surveys of similar developments such as this, only about half of future residents will own a car, and that number declines over time as residents find this to use them. This is because obviously the site is within walking distance to the town centre. There will be a car club, residents share cars, and there will be a minibus for residents and for staff. In respect of the protection of the residents, first place in particular, we propose
sorry to interrupt, Mr. Montgomery. The 3 minutes is up. Can I ask you to round up to your nearest last sentence?
To round up, I would simply ask you to accept the recommendation of your officers to branch company.
Thank you very much for your time. Members, I will open this up for discussion. Does anyone want to start? Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank the speakers and the officer for the presentation, and for Councillor Pulfer. It's really delightful to see developers working hand in hand with the local community. Clearly they have done here, especially with the local town council, and I applaud that. And I would say that that's an exemplar way to go. So well done with that. The report highlights obviously that nearly 20% of people in the district are aged 65 and over, and I guess that percentage will increase, and they have increasing medical needs. I thought the DNA statement particularly was extremely comprehensive on the portal, and very illustrative. I was also very impressed with the design review panel and Will Dorman's report. And this scheme clearly has evolved over, I think it's 4 years now. So again, that's good to see. Applicants listening and amending schemes as they go. The use of the design complements the levels very well, and we saw that at the site visit on Monday. The construction management plan is always a thorny issue with local residents, and Councillor Pulford again, the Town Council have nailed that one early as well, so that's there and ready to go. So there are no objections from statutory consultees, so I'm fully supportive and would promote this scheme for approval. I think it's an excellent scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whittaker. Councillor Forbes.
I won't take long. I will vote for approval of this because it's fully supported by the Town Council. I've read all their comments, etc. I fully support this application. I don't think I need to say any more than that.
No, thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Trumbull.
Thank you, Chairman. I obviously missed this interesting statistic that Councillor Whittaker mentioned on 20% of the district's residents being 65 plus. I didn't see that here. I was going to ask about the need. What is the need in our area for this kind of facility? I'd just like to know. And indeed, if you look at Perth Place, some of their facilities have been on the market for a long time. That kind of questions somehow the need out there, because they've been around for a while now. So I'd like to know more information about the need, please. I think the biggest skill for me were around the Manhouse and the demolition of the Manhouse. I never like to see the loss of, it's not exactly a heritage asset, but a building of some age. But then again, what the report seems to indicate is that this is a worthy Victorian house, and the district is full of worthy Victorian houses, and indeed I live in one of those myself, but not necessarily of sufficient standing to be listed. So it would be interesting to hear more about that and thinking about that. It's already been said that this is a good design, and I'm very impressed with the way that the applicant, architects at least, have designed this property and used the land to best advantage. That's very impressive, and that's very much supported, of course, by Will Dorman and the design review panel. So I would just welcome answers, please, or more information on need. I'd just like, well, in fact, no, there is no need to go into the issue on the Manor House, because I think that is fairly cut and clear. Just the issue on need, please. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Trumbull. Mr. King, would you like to answer Councillor Trumbull's on?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Please.
Yeah, just a few points on that. In terms of planning policy, see, the site is allocated for approximately 20 extra care bungalows anyway. So in terms of the policy, that is what the old the neighbourhood plan says. In terms of a general or wider need, government advice is very clear that the need for elderly accommodation, I think they refer to it as a critical need nationally. So there's clear support for all types of accommodation for elderly persons, whether it's this type of C2 accommodation or C3 accommodation. And at the public inquiry at the Hazelden's Nursery appeal, which was late last year, need was gone into in great detail at that public inquiry. And the appellants there were advancing a case that there was a very significant need for this type of accommodation, and the inspector clearly accepted that because the appeal was allowed. And we also have a number of other planning applications in with the council at the moment for this type of accommodation elsewhere in the district. So I think in this district there is going to be a need for this type of accommodation. So I don't think there's any dispute about that, and the site is within the built-up area where there is a presumption in favour of development in any event. You didn't want to go into the issue of the heritage asset at all, did you say?
My understanding, Steve, is not a heritage asset, but...
non-designated
pretty satisfied that the case made in here, I think, is crystal clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bates, you wish to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have to admit that I'm one of the 20%. My future needs maybe are being catered for. I'm a bit disappointed in as much as we had this site visit and we didn't have it indicated where the existing building was in relation to the proposal. And likewise, because of the distance we are here to the screen, I can't see if that's been presented today. And likewise, you know, a standard procedure for drawings like this, you would have shown the outline of the proposed build, well, the existing building against the new. I'm generally in favour of the scheme. It's just I can't see some of the detail I would expect from such drawing work. And therefore, I eventually went round to Climewood Court. And that's the best visual view of the existing building, and it is a very nice building. Once you take away all the add-ons, and you could reinstate that building to look quite nice. But I think we're further down the road than that. You know, I think the applicants come in as it's a greenfield site. So I'm disappointed in that respect. But in looking at that building and looking at Climewood Court, I would say, and I'm a bit concerned about our design panel and where they're coming from, because there's an awful lot of flat roofs in this particular project. You look at Climewood Court, it's pitch roofing. The existing manor house is pitch roofing. It looks very nice. We're not going to get the chimneys back. But, you know, I'm a bit concerned in that aspect of it. Because I think that the design of the flat roofs and all, it takes the standard of the actual building down. It's not really what we would like to see. So the only other point I would make is obviously I fully support page 45 on the update sheet as well as the cycling. And that area does afford an awful lot of opportunity for people my age and older and younger to cycle around in that area. So I'm pleased that that's been mentioned.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Bates. On your first point about having the existing building on the map, I don't know whether that can be incorporated in future.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the drawings are as the applicants have submitted, but what I've tried to do in the presentation is put the two drawings together to compare. So you've got the existing building, existing site as shown on the right-hand side, and the proposed on the left-hand side. So again, that was just to highlight the fact that the existing building is very close to Darwin's Cottage in particular. So you can see how close it is here, where the cursor is, compared to the proposed arrangement where the western wing of the building is much further away. As I said, I think it's about 37 metres from, in terms of the distance. So that's the comparison, Chairman.
Yeah. Thank you. I think Councillor Bates alluded to having the existing building on the site map and do the site visits.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a technical person.
Yeah.
I do that sort of thing, and that's what I would, it's a standard procedure.
Thank you. As regards the actual building itself, I mean, it's, as we've heard, it's set further back, which is a lot of benefit to the climate. I was closing down on Cottage. It's basically it's not fit for purpose anymore. So I really do welcome this application. Councillor Eames wishes to speak next. Thank you.
Chair. And thank you for organising the site visit, which was my very first one. It was very interesting and informative. I think this is a splendid house, actually. When I walked round the front and saw the lawn sweeping down, I thought, this is lovely. A real shame to lose it, actually. But when you look at the facilities that people will have with the new setup, I think if I were an old person going there, I'd rather have the new version. That's what swayed me ultimately, especially having looked inside and seen that they don't all have full wet rooms and so on. I welcome the car club. Shame there's only one electric vehicle, but that's great. The air source heat pumps and the solar panels. I like the fact the wall will be rebuilt with reclaimed bricks because that's a beautiful wall. And I like the charging points, passive and active. Could there be grasscrete for the parking spaces? Because we've had a lot of flooding lately in Burgess Hill. I think we have to be really aware of the dangers, the amount of runoff. And that brings me to Councillor Bates's point about the flat roofs. Are flat roofs really quite what we need in this country when it tips it down? But I like the solar panels, that's great. I'm concerned about tree safeguarding. So often you build things and then you say, oh, that tree's now creating subsidence, and you're caught in this insurance circle and you have to take the tree out. That would be a great shame. Nobody's told us how much percentage of biodiversity net gain will be achieved. I don't know if you have any detail on that. I'd like to see a lot of back boxes and swift boxes, that kind of thing. And could there be a bicycle route, an entrance from the south, because this is a hill and it's a shame to have to go all the way up and down again. So if you were coming from Balmoral Village, you might want a little gate in the south for pedestrians and cyclists. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Eaves. Yes, your points are noted. We're here today looking at the application in front of us. We can't make amendments or alterations to that. You know, this plan, we have to make a decision what we're looking at. As for your other question about biodiversity, do we have any figures on that?
I don't have a detailed figure. I mean, it's the information that's in the committee report in terms of the Wildflower, Meadow and additional landscaping that will be put in. I think when we saw from the site visit that the existing grounds to the south of the existing care home, it's just rough mown grass, so that at the moment will not have any great biodiversity value as things stand. So there is an opportunity to improve things. And you'll see that the council's ecological consultant had no issues with the application. In terms of the comment regarding cycling, there is a pedestrian access gate that exists at the southern end of southwestern side of the site where the cursor is here. So that will be retained as part of the application. So you can see it here on the proposed site plan, and then it obviously feeds into the proposed paths within the site. So it would be possible if you're coming from this direction, from the public right of way, to come up and go into the site from here if you're on the bike or walking. And there is a condition regarding the hard landscaping within the site. So that will include all of the car parking and the access roads. When discharging that condition and looking at the hard landscaping, that has to be done in conjunction with looking at the drainage arrangements, because the two obviously have to work together to make sure that the site is properly drained. So when we're looking to clear conditions about whatever hard landscaping goes in, we also work with the drainage engineers to make sure that what's proposed actually works properly. I think those are the main points, Chair.
I think so. Next speaker is Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. I visited the site on Monday, and I had a good look round both inside and outside. Looking at the building itself, it's obviously quite a nice building, but some of the additional extensions were still not very attractive. Going inside, it was fairly obvious that to bring it up to modern standards for a care home would be prohibitively expensive to do. So I think probably the plans that we're being presented with is probably a good use, next good use of the whole area of the site, and it's probably a welcome improvement to what we have there together. One thing did actually strike me is that what is being suggested is obviously quite an expensive sort of facility, so probably only really attract the fairly wealthy sort of clients. I shouldn't imagine that the money available from the County Council Adult Social Care would fund any of these residents in this sort of facility. So there is a need for, obviously, for more affordable type of care facilities, for this obviously speaks to be the upper end of the market.
Right, thank you for that, Councillor Jackson.
Well, actually, therefore I will support this application.
Right, lovely, thank you. Do I have any other speakers? I don't. So in that case, I will go to the recommendation. It is recommended that, subject to the completion of a satisfactory S106 planning obligation, securing the necessary financial contributions towards infrastructure as set out in the assessment section below, the occupation of the building and care package, car club and minibus provision, planning permission be granted subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A. Do I have a proposer? Councillor Forbes, seconder, Councillor Jackson. All those in favour?
Chairman, we normally have a name vote.
Yeah, my apologies.
And just to add to what the chairman said, there are also the two extra conditions on the update sheet. So Councillor Bates.
4.
Councillor Eaves.
4.
Councillor Forbes. 4. Councillor Jackson. 4. Councillor Peacock. 4. Councillor Swetman. 4. Councillor Trumbull. 4. Councillor Webb. 4. Councillor Whitaker. 4. That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. That application is approved. And bear with me 1 second. The other item on the agenda is questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice of which has been given. I have none. So I'll conclude this meeting and ask members to remain in place with the microphone being muted for approximately 10 seconds whilst the live feed concludes. We'll be informed when that has stopped. Thank you.